President Bola Ahmed Tinubu woos investors to Nigeria, assures of conducive environment. Nigeria's Sovereign Investment Authority launches $500 million renewable investment platform to expand energy access and ensure security. Securities and Exchange Commission SEC to focus on infrastructure financing through capital markets in 2024. Plus, oil extends gains as OPEC Plus to more deeper cuts. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Musa Abubakar, your guide. Let's bring to speed with business development. There are indications that the Central Bank of Nigeria has postponed meeting of its Monetary Policy Committee meeting, MPC, for the second time, as investors and analysts look forward to the move by the new governor, Yemi Kaduso, in tackling inflation. Efforts have been made to reach the Corporate Communications Department of the Apex Bank for response, as a report by Bloomberg on Monday quoted the CBN's Director of Corporate Communications, Dr. Isa Abdul Mumin, who said that MPC is not holding a meeting this week in a text response. Now, Germany is hosting an investors conference in Berlin under the G20's Compact with Africa initiative. The gathering is part of the German government's commitment to supporting African countries and making economic gains. Some 13 African countries have so far joined the initiative. They are Nigeria, Benin, Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Egypt, Ethiopia, Ghana, Guinea, Morocco, Rwanda, Senegal, Togo, and Tunisia, as well as South Africa. Other countries such as Angola, Zambia, and Kenya. Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu says his country is open for business, has conducive environment will be provided. President Bola Tinubu tells the audience at the G20 Investment Summit and the Compact with Africa conference in Berlin, Germany. Now, the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, NSIA, has launched a $500 million renewables investment platform for limitless energy, Ripple. The transformative initiative is dedicated to the development, investment, and operation of renewable energy projects across the entire value chain. The launch of Ripple is accompanied by the execution of a strategic partnership agreement that seeks to further redefine Nigeria's energy landscape with International Finance Corporation, IFC, which signals a joint commitment to advance renewable energy development. Speaking on the partnership, Managing Director NSIA, Mr. Aminu Umar Sadiq, said the collaboration between NSIA and the IFC is a clear demonstration of the authority's dedication to sustainable energy transition in Nigeria. As the custodian of economic resources for current and future generations of Nigerians, tackling climate risk is integral to NSIA's objectives. The pilot for the initiative is located within the Tokarawa Industrial Hub in Kano State, and it involves setting up a generation and distribution system to meet 70 megawatt of unsuppressed energy demands of industrial activities, commercial enterprises, and residential customers in an area covering about 9,000 connections. Now let's head to the commodities market. Gold drops from 2-week highs as markets look to Federal Reserve minutes. Let's see how commodities are trading. And now to our discussion segment, the Nigerian government has pledged to improve the quality of locally manufactured products in order to boost exports, underscoring the significance of prioritizing production, processing and packaging of non-oil export products to foster economic growth and sustainable development. This is the focus of our discussion today as we take a look at minimizing export rejection to zero and meeting global standards and regulations. With me to x-ray this topic is Collins Ezeiruaku Nwosu. He is Trade Ambassador, International Trade Facilitation Association. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, last time we agree on Collins Ezeiruaku. Maybe we'll continue with Collins Ezeiruaku. Well, let's delve into it. Well, can you just give us a perspective of our strength, possible where we need to strengthen in terms of our trade? Because right now, as it is, the conversation must have to go to our exports because we need the needed foreign exchange earnings so that we could, boost our economy.
Yeah, thank you, Musa. Speaking of our strength in trade, it's important to point out something. I'd like to go to 2022. The numbers, total export is about 2.8 billion, as reported by the Export Promotion Council. And in the same period of review, 2003, the same January, looking at what has been done, we have a number of about 4.8 billion as reported total export. That's a leap. And what it shows is that we have capacity. What it shows is that it is possible for us to increase our exports if concerted efforts are put in place. And what kind of efforts were put in place to make this happen? I think a lot of advocacy in sharing with individuals who are in the business space, what export means, what the opportunities are in export. A lot of activity was also carried out in terms of exposing potential exporters to markets. So a lot of market-facing activities were carried out. And in terms of standards, work also commenced in terms of helping potential exporters meet minimum standards. So for commodities, that was, I think, hazards and critical control points. Was it GAP? So if that is the trajectory, what Nigeria sits on and lives on currently, major export is oil. And oil is averagely, if you look at about past 10 years, about 38 billion, right, annual export. And we've been able to, in a year, do 100% increase in what non-oil export was. What it shows is that with concerted effort, we can drive oil export significantly. And that can be done in as short as 4 years. In as short as 4 years. Even if we do year-on-year growth over the next couple of years, 3 years, based on what has happened before, year-on-year 100% increase, compounding increase, you're looking at moving oil exports to the neighborhood of 20-30 billion, which means that oil exports can actually surpass non-oil exports in the shortest possible time. Now, which brings us to what you mentioned, rejections. We have to deal with that. It's critical. You have to take that head on in order to boost export. Yeah.
Okay, Nigeria's Export Promotion Agency, NAPC, has evolved several means of increasing the nation's exports, one of which is the Export for Survival initiative. How effective have these programs been with the new administration? What do you think needs to be done to consolidate on the previous efforts?
I believe sustained effort. One of the things that happens is truncation of policy. So where we start something and it hasn't given us the result we think because the people are crying out, then we cut it short. So we underestimate what can be done in 12 months and we overestimate rather what we can do in a short period of 12 months perhaps, that's 1 year, and then begin to underestimate what can be done in 2, 3 or 4 years. So export survival has led to certain initiatives, one of which is training potential exporters in areas of standards, right? Another is doing a lot of research in finding out what standards the markets require and helping them to meet those standards. So if you say that we have succeeded, yes, we have made some level of progress. Remember I told you, if you look at the report of 2022, January, and the report of 2023, January, you're seeing from 2.8 billion to about, 2.6 billion to 4.8 billion increase in export. meaning that there is progress. Is that enough? No. Is there more to be done? Yes. So we need to drive more in terms of exposing the public to this information. So it's not something that the Export Promotion Council can do alone. They have to do it in conjunction with other agencies, for instance, the National Orientation Agency, and their base information that could pass out. So let me narrow down, for instance, in terms of fisheries. Major importers of fish are Japan, so Asia, Europe, and the United States. Those are the major importers of fish, Now, what happens in those areas is that all three countries have three different standards. So if you take the standard for Asia and you want to use it in exporting your fish to Europe, you definitely are going to have rejection. That's major. So what needs to happen is that the targeted markets where we have advantage is where we need to educate people. Say, hey, please, can you go to this market? We're helping you develop this market. Go here first. We've met the standard for XYZ market. Let's go there. So don't think that because you have certain standard certifications for a particular market, it can work elsewhere. That may not work. So there's a lot of advocacy that needs to go on. There's a lot of exposure. There's a lot of knowledge that needs to go on. And I don't think that one agency can do it alone. Neither do we believe at ITFA that the government can do it alone. We also need other institutions who can help us.
Now, private sector partnership, where does the private sector partnership lies? And again, you talk about capacity. You also talk about how to actually standardize our products. Where is the place of technology as well?
Technology will continue to play a major role. But the thing is, I personally believe that certain technologies do not need to be pushed out so fast. For instance, where someone requires a grinding machine that they can work with, a small generator, and you now want to give them a very complex machine where the infrastructure required, which is power, is not available. What you've done is a recipe for disaster, a recipe for failure. So we'll need to grow the addition of technology to that of infrastructure. That's where the public-private sector comes in. The private sector, I'm certain, would want to invest in certain technologies, but you would need to support them with the infrastructure required. So if I needed to get raw materials to process in my facility, for instance, do I have access to those raw materials? That becomes a nightmare. So I would broadly classify it into operational challenges and then technical challenges. So a lot of operational challenges need to be dealt with through public sector support. Technical challenges are most likely what you ask the private sector to deal with. So if you look at Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, they will clearly tell you we don't have very clear means of transporting our items. We don't have, the rules are not very clear in some instances. So if I needed to export an item, it would take me longer to export it than it is for me to import. So why is that so? So in areas of priority, if we're prioritizing export, then we'll have to look at the entire value chain. We'll have to look at where regulations are and let the regulation be trade facilitation rather than trade stifling. So those are the things that will work. But in terms of tech is available. We may not need to push in too much complex technology at this time, but we just need to bring the
another thing is value addition, as you see from the video over there. Value addition is very key. We seem to very much focus on primary products. Those primary products, at the end of the day, it gets back to the country, and what we do is we end up paying more for what we're supposed to be owners of.
Musa, I agree with you to an extent. I'll also say that we have a lot of wins. There are a lot of companies. If you go to any of the fairs, this period is a period for fairs. You would find that our local people are doing a lot in terms of, producing what should be produced, adding certain value. Kuli Kuli is now getting, status as biscuits. We're having Ridi, which is Benny Seed, is beginning to take on nice positioning. We're having our Shea take on different, competing in terms of value add. But it brings us down to something. How easy is it for these manufacturers to work? Which is why I say in terms of policy, the policy end of things, that's the operational end of things and the technical end of things have to come together. So if policy doesn't support the private sector, then it becomes difficult. I'll also say this quickly.
But at this stage, we should not be talking about policy, I thought. We should be talking about how to really implement these things,
Yeah,
because
it's
it
not
has
about
always been the
policy
conversation.
creation, Musa.
It has
It's
been the
policy
conversation.
implementation.
Okay, implementation.
Yes,
That's
it's
where
policy
the issue
implementation.
lies.
So we want to push export. What are the rules are there? How clear are they? How are we helping the ordinary person or the person who has come into the business to say, okay, these are the rules and we'll help you to export.
Okay.
For instance, if I'm going to import items that are related to manufacturing agricultural produce, and I know that there are incentives in terms of tariffs, how easy is it for me to access that? How do I know that? So that means that people need to know that this exists in the first place, and then they need to know where to go. So those are the gaps that have to be bridged. I'm not saying create new policies. I'm saying the ones that exist need to be worked. They need to be flogged. They need to be enforced.
Okay.
You know?
So now, I think this is a very exciting time. It should be exciting time for exporters, because when you look at it, we talk about the only way we could resolve the present forex crisis is to increase exports. You understand? But another way is for exporters, it means more money. It means more money. That means people should get into this export business. You know.
Agreed. You know, with the position of our naira to the dollar, which is the major currency of exchange in terms of export or import trade, international trade, it should be easier for people to purchase our items. Now, but you've also mentioned value add. So if I was to package my items in a way that it would go out and be acceptable, value add, I would need to import the finishing. The cost of importing the finishing now kind of parallels the cost of what my final produce. That makes it a little bit expensive, meaning that we'll come back to you know, it's almost ground zero. So if you say, oh, okay, then let's export the raw materials, but it takes me twice the cost, the amount of time to move my items from primary produce to where to be purchased, then again, you see that has been neutralized. So yes, it should be an advantage. Yes, it is something we should push, but now have to identify the bottlenecks. So the infrastructure challenges, the knowledge challenges, and start driving to solve them. And I think we have certain solutions for some of these.
Okay, before I let you go, Nigeria agro products continue to get just rejection, as we really actually talked about. But what are the issues, and how is Nigeria positioned to tackle these issues?
I think one of the major things is understanding the standard that the market wants and preparing for that market standard, just as I gave the example with fish. The second one is also, again, trying to help make sure that our systems are nimble. So if it doesn't take me 3 weeks to move yam from the ports to its destination, it will definitely be rotten, it will have lost quality, and will be rejected. So if we create an efficiency around the export of our products, the actual things that need to be done to export it, so in terms of documentation and export, then once that is hastened, it will drastically reduce rejections. Another thing that we could quickly do is to look at shared services. So we need to now begin to create clusters, because the small businesses do not have the funds to invest in the level of tech that would help them move forward. So clusters, for instance, we could have tolling centers that are producing oil, tolling centers that are doing presses, tolling centers that are doing packaging. So with those mega centers set up for the small businesses, of which 80% of our businesses are small businesses, then that helps us to churn out standardized products that are not exported and that are not rejected once they are exported.
Thank you very much, Mr. Collins, Trade Ambassador, International Trade Facilitation Association. It's been a pleasure having you on the program, and I would like a part 2 of this discussion, because this is an ongoing discussion.
Thank you, Musa. I would look forward to that.
Okay. Now, moving on, the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, Mr. Lamido Yuguda, has hinted that the $1 trillion economy goal set by President Bola Tinubu can be achieved through the capital market. Speaking during the Capital Market Committee meeting in Lagos, Yuguda emphasized the SEC's focus on channeling market funds into infrastructure for the realization of the $1 trillion economic target by 2026. Stock market sees 0.37% rise week ended November 17th. Let's join Muplanda Kok for a review.
Nigeria's equities market appreciated by 0.37% in the trading week ended Friday 17th November as more investors stayed on the buy side of the bus. The market recorded 4 days of positive closes as against 1 day of negative close. The NGX All-Share Index rose to 71,112.99 basis points. Market capitalization also rose to 39.1 trillion naira. 2.025 billion shares exchanged hands in the week by investors valued at 27.6 billion naira. All other indices finished higher with the exception of NGX main board, banking, industrial goods and sovereign bond indices which depreciated while the NGX ASM index closed flat. The financial services industry led the activity chart with 1.2 billion shares valued at 11.4 billion naira traded in 12,775 deals. The oil and gas industry came far behind in second place, while the third place was occupied by the services industry. Trading in the top 3 equities, Japal Gold, Fidelity Bank and Jais Bank, measured by volume, accounted for 488.1 million shares worth 1.9 billion naira in 3,136 deals. A summary of price changes shows that 54 equities appreciated in price in the week, 30 equities depreciated in price, while 72 equities remained unchanged.
And now to global stocks update. Europe stocks mix as investors continue to assess rate cut prospects. By down 19%. Let's see a compilation of the figures. Our experts on Focus Economics project Nigeria's crude oil production to average 1.36 million barrels per day in 2024. This is according to the December 2023 Focus Economics Consensus Focus Report. It stated that the figure projected is purely oil production based on and not condensate production. In the report, it was stated that oil output is forecast to increase in 2024 for the second consecutive year on the back of increased security in the Niger Delta. It stated further that higher crude output will translate into much-needed fuel supplies for the country as the Dangote refinery ramps up production. However, renewed turmoil in the Niger Delta remains a key downside risk to the outlook. Oil futures rose more than $1 on Monday, extending gains on the prospects of OPEC Plus deepening supply cuts to shore up prices after 4 weeks of decline on demand worries and concern over Middle East supply disruption owing to the Israel-Hamas conflict. Brent crude futures rose $1.19 or 1.5% to $1.80 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was up $1.12 or 1.5% at $77.01. This is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Business Express returns Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. I am Musa Bakar. Enjoy the rest of your day.